Liu Zhenkong finished his day's work, returned to his warm Laurent house, turned on the familiar computer, and clicked the familiar icon. Ah, Steam! Look at my game library. There are not many stocks in it, but they are all boutique. Liu Zhenkong loves these games. It's night. Liu Zhenkong intends to brush the 5 doors of Hollow Knight in the evening, this time trying to reduce the time to 30 minutes. Although not comparable to those big guys, it is still enough to be proud of hitting the top in such a difficult game. Before that, Liu Zhenkong decided to eat a good meal. Adequate blood sugar can give his brain more vitality, at least make his reaction faster. I pick up a bowl of rice, put it in a rice cooker, add a handful of fresh corn kernels, and plug it in for cooking. Open the old yellowish small refrigerator, take half of the remaining cabbage, and take a small piece of bacon. Cabbage, cabbage, everything is delicious. Liu Zhenkong hummed, fried cabbage with bacon, everything is delicious. Walked to the narrow and cramped balcony, where the kitchen utensils were less than 5 square meters. Opened the window to exhaust smoke, but accidentally put it in the moonlight. On the ceiling of the balcony, there was a small, dirty energy-saving lamp, emitting a faint light, and pulling the shadow of Liu Zhenkong. After making the only hot dish, he opened the folding table resting on the wall, solemnly placed the bacon stir-fried cabbage in the center of the small table, and opened a few bottles of canned food to make the stars look like the moon. When the dishes are done, wait until the rice is cooked. Taking advantage of his free time, Liu Zhenkong quickly opened the Taiwa picture scroll for a while. This game is simply a black hole of time. I added 100 hours unknowingly, and the Buddhist players have a hard life in this game. It is a good descendant of Taiwa who does not destroy the pivotal forces, but indulges in village construction. Everything is in order. Liu Zhenkong is very satisfied with his current life and enjoys his single time very much. After eating, Liu Zhenkong went out for a walk. He lived on the 18th floor. It took a while to go up and down the elevator. Many people would not choose to take a walk because they found it troublesome. Liu Zhenkong didn't mind being alone in the middle of the night. Wander for a while. Liu Zhenkong looked at the gloomy high-rise buildings of the city under the street lights, and looked up at the sky. The dark clouds were illuminated by the city lights, emitting an unnatural red light. After walking for a while, I felt that the thin oily water in my stomach was digested, and my body gradually became hot and dry, completely resisting the cold of early autumn. He knew it was time. Went home, sat at the computer desk, and opened Hollow Knight. Familiar music, familiar interface, he watched it countless times and saw the familiar little knight sitting on a familiar bench to relax, but Liu Zhenkong felt a surging power surge in his chest. He couldn't help but said, I really want to enter the game and have an adventure with life as a bet. After saying that, he couldn't help but laughed. What do you think, such an adult, like a child? Manipulated the little knight to come to the 5th gate of God's house. There are 44 boss wheel fights waiting for him. The phone was muted first, after thinking about it, threw it on the bed, and covered it with the quilt. Take a breath, 5 doors, lock blood, enter. The Golden Divine Residence, the Gate of the Abyss, black engulfed Liu Zhenkong's sight. Liu Zhenkong felt himself floating, gently and slowly, like flowing clouds floating in the sky. The pitch-black field of vision slowly became clear, and what led to the eyes was a large golden scene, with complex and beautiful geometric runes hanging in the air and transparent. Everything was like a dream. Looking at the 4 worlds, there are suspended platforms, and there seem to be buildings, sculptures, and moving shadows. Everything is so beautiful, Liu Zhenkong has forgotten his existence, just throwing himself into such a colorful and wonderful world. But such a dreamlike scene quickly dissipated, and Liu Zhenkong woke up. But not in the shape of a person. Is a bug in the eye? Liu Zhenkong was taken aback. Bug? The worm in front of him has an anthropomorphic figure with slender limbs, but the whole body is round and very harmless, but it is too big, No, Liu Zhenkong realized that he had become smaller. The bug made a cheerful sound when seeing Liu Zhenkong. The voice was soft and gentle, but Liu Zhenkong couldn't understand it. Of course, the words of insects are of course different from those of people. Liu Zhenkong found himself lying on the bed, trying to get up, but couldn't do it. He stretched out his hand to see, but suddenly surprised. This transparent, small hand, with 4 fingers, can still see the blood vessels inside. There is no bone, but a carapace. Although it is very weak, it is indeed a carapace. Liu Zhenkong repeatedly confirmed, and finally realized that he had become a larva. How can there be such an anthropomorphic insect? I am now in a small round house, with various tools hanging on the wall, and a transparent ball hanging from the ceiling, with glowing insects flying in it, bringing light and a little warmth to the room. The previous bug left Liu Zhenkang's bed, and after a while, he walked back with a piece of meat in his hand. This seems to be a piece of worm meat with a carapace. The familiar appearance gives Liu Zhenkong a sense of sight. This seems to be the lowest worm in Hollow Night, that is, the little reptile. The worm put the meat in his hand in his mouth and chewed for a while, performed a simple digestion, spit out the minced meat, and fed it a little bit to Liu Zhenkong. The human consciousness is rejecting such crude food, but the survival instinct of the insect body is exceptionally enjoying the luscious nutrients. Liu Zhenkong can taste the mellow taste, and his heart is moved by a complex and straightforward joy. The frail body of the larva could not provide Liu Zhenkong with the energy to think for a long time, and he soon fell into a deep sleep. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. He entered a dream of a bug, a dream of a swarm, a dream of a country. Liu Zhenkang's eyes are full of golden light. This is the world of dreams. He can't see his body, but he can feel the power of his mind. After all, he is a human being. An illusory platform appeared in this golden void. The world had a direction. The platform was the earth, below, and above, there was boundless light. There were many similar platforms in the distance, and there were many huge buildings in the shadows. They hide their extraordinary posture in the world of dreams, becoming inconspicuous, like real dream bubbles, which are the dreams of other bugs. Liu Zhenkong wanted a tangible body. Soon, he could feel the body condensed and various body senses appeared one by one. This feeling was very beautiful. Liu Zhenkong was both surprised and happy. A small, round, egg-like bug fell lightly on the platform below, like a cloud, and bounced slightly. The size of the platform has no practical significance. As soon as Liu Zhenkang's thoughts moved, the platform expanded a lot, and as he made deeper associations, the platform began to become solid, a wall appeared, and a small pavilion appeared. Liu Zhenkong is very beautiful and exquisite. The internal structure is also constantly appearing. Comfortable bamboo recliners, household items, pots and pans, these are completely useless things. Liu Zhenkong spares no effort. Realization, such a dream world full of details, is more fascinating than reality. Liu Zhenkong knows that he is a here. But he was not after all. He quickly became tired and stopped thinking of building dreams. He lay on the wide bed and fell into a dreamless sleep. In other words, sleep in a dream. Under the constant urging of the general consciousness, the two sides finally mustered up the courage and approached each other cautiously. After all, the sword and shield hand was holding a large shield, which could protect half of his body, so he approached the dual-wielding swordsman unhurriedly, wishing to get into the shield. Chop! Chop him! The total consciousness yelled on the throne. The closer the sword and shield hand got to the dual-wielding swordsman, the more constrained he was, and his head retracted behind the shield. The dual-wielding swordsman looked at the sword and shield hand with the insect feet exposed. He smiled, squatted down and slashed his leg with his sword. This sword was extremely fast, and it was not surprising that it could easily cut the sword and shield hand's legs. At the time of the lightning and flint, the sword and shield hand slammed forward, and the big shield slammed the swordsman, sealing all his movements, and then sent the long sword in his hand, passing through the barrel, and nailing the swordsman on the ground. The total consciousness shouted, "Okay!" Is simply wonderful. Although from the eyes of the audience, the sword and shield player's battle strategy is very risky. After all, even the eyes are retracted, and the opponent's behavior is completely invisible. It is a fate gamble. The crucified swordsman disappeared, and after a while, he walked out of the doorway of the duel arena again. The confidence of the sword and shield player who won once increased greatly. The two sides started the duel again. Drink. The battle is about to start. After 68 battles one after another, Liu Zhengkong was finally exhausted. The three consciousnesses merged and a large amount of memory was mixed. After waking up, he was also lethargic. In reality, the maintenance bug is not there. It is estimated that the road sign will be repaired again. Liu Zhengkong tried to get up from the bed. After a period of development, his body became stronger and older. The carapace on the body surface was initially hardened. The muscles are also sufficient to support him for simple activities. Got out of bed, he used all fours together, climbed to the wall, and looked up at the drawings. The kingdom of insects, also known as the Holy Nest, is a civilized world. Knowledge, an important cornerstone of the civilized world, is the lifelong pursuit of every life who desires wisdom. Liu Zhengkong also desires knowledge. He wants to know how this world looks like. Regarding the world background of the original game, players have many speculations, but the narrative method of the soul game used in the original game is ambiguous, and there are many unsolved mysteries. A large number of Easter eggs also give players plenty of room for imagination, and the pursuit of the truth is also a great joy. Looked at the drawings on the wall. Most of the content on it was the manufacturing sketches of road signs and street lamps. The most important thing was a map. In the game, the protagonist, the little knight, spends Joe to purchase the sketch of the area map from the map merchant, and then draws a specific route with a feather pen. It takes a lot of hard work to get a complete map of the Holy Nest. A qualified Hollow Knight player is familiar with the map and can no longer be familiar with it. Liu Zhengkong knew at first glance that this map was Forgotten Crossroads, and it was not complete. Liu Zhengkong thought that this should be the scope of the maintenance bug. Ordinary bugs, their entire lives are confined to the corner of the Holy Nest, which is a kind of sadness for those who yearn for a novel life. But this is determined by the environment. In the original work, the Holy Nest has declined, and everywhere is full of ferocious insects and resurrected bodies. If they lose their minds, they will take the initiative to attack outsiders, and there are dangerous traps in many areas. Not strong, the strength of this lost country is difficult to move. Liu Zhengkong is determined to walk all over the Holy Nest, see all the beautiful scenery, and turn the game into reality. What kind of excitement will it have? Ah! It's mumbling. There was an exclamation from the door, as well as the inexplicable language of insects. Repair insects came back. He saw Liu Zhengkong actually run to the ground, and he was very panicked. He rushed over to pick up Liu Zhengkong, and gently put Liu Zhengkong back on the bed. Then, he began to scorn Liu Zhengkong. Liu Kong is not at all concerned, after all, he can't understand it at all, and the language of maintenance is very good. Is a docile bug after all, even speaking softly. One of the confusing things in the original work is that those talking bugs have different pronunciations. So how do they communicate? Liu Zhengkong thinks that the bugs are likely to secrete pheromone to communicate specifically, but the problem is that he should also have the corresponding communication skills. Why can't he understand the language of maintenance bugs? This question is related to his knowledge blind zone. No longer worry about it. Liu Zhengkong was in a daze with the soft language of insects, as if back to the past. He listened to soft songs, looked at the rolling clouds on the city sky, bathed in brilliant sunshine. Emptying his mind, the worm's words in his ear gradually became clear, and the chaotic sentences were even a little bit clearer. You must be good, don't move, it won't be good to knock and touch, it will hurt, do you know what pain is? You will know it, pain is a feeling, do you know what a feeling is? Just. Lu Zhengkong, I feel complicated. JPG. It turns out that I didn't understand the language of insects, but I just didn't realize it. My brain has subconsciously interpreted the information, but my mind didn't respond. Also, this maintenance bug is too long-winded. Feeling is a kind of thought, you are born with it, when you are young, you will understand later, and when you grow up, you will know. I want a bone nail. Lu Zhengkong said suddenly, his voice soft and waxy. The maintenance bug shuddered, wait, you can talk. Little guy, you can really talk? Is it my illusion? Do you know what an illusion is? An illusion is. Lu Zhengkong made a super loud BB again, I want a bone nail. Oh. You are really talking. White King, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com, have you heard that? Your people can talk. He is so young. Oh, he is so smart, maybe he can be the best in the holy nest, the maintenance bug. Little guy, do you know the White King? The White King is. Lu Zhengkong thought to himself, absolutely, it's really a silly talk. Then repeated again, I want a bone nail. No, you are too young, besides, we repair bugs are not soldiers, we don't have the courage to brandish bone nails. I want a bone nail. The so-called bone nail is the long sword of the insect warriors. It is as white as bone and sharp as a nail. The blade is a slender triangle like a flat cone. The hilt is a cylinder. The shape of the bone nail is very simple. In the game, the protagonist, the little knight, collects pale ores scattered around the holy nest. After accumulating a large amount of geo, he can find nail makers living near the City of Tears to repair and upgrade the bone nails. Under the condition of the same overall shape, the appearance becomes more and more gorgeous. The power is greater than once. It can be said that bone nails are the belief of Zerg warriors. Lu Zhengkong is in urgent need of a bone nail. He wants to really touch the bone nail, so that the battle in the dream can be carried out with the bone nail instead of the iron sword as a substitute. The real battle must be perfect. Why do you want bone nails? I want a bone nail. You can do a maintenance bug. I want a bone nail. But, okay. I'll pick one, and forgotten to bury countless warriors on the crossroad, their bone nails have the will of the holy nest, I will get one. The maintenance bug sighed again and again, swaying towards the door go outside. Before leaving the house, the maintenance bug turned his head and glanced at Lu Zhengkong again. There was a deep emotion hidden in his black crystal eyes, which Lu Zhengkong had never understood. The body of the maintenance insect is round, but it is very agile. His short legs have strong explosive power and support him to move quickly. In this dark underground kingdom, lighting basically relies on light flies, and of course there are luminous fungi, but that is in the fungus wetland. The main body of the holy nest is the hardened area of the city. The street lamp is responsible for lighting on the road, and the light bulb is the light bulb. The transparent crystal ball that binds the light fly. The forgotten crossroad is located in the area closest to the surface of the holy nest. It extends in all directions. In the heyday of the kingdom, the bugs came and went like a tide, and it was very lively. But now, the crossroad is forgotten, and the small town on the surface above the crossroad has also declined. Go down. The maintenance bug knows the name of the town, Ditmuth, which means Chinsui. There are many buildings there. Those huts were once full of bugs, but now they are scarce. In the short and busy career of maintenance worm, he had countless opportunities to go to Dartmouth, but he did not do that. Maintenance bugs with weak nature cannot expose themselves in this declining and unordered kingdom, because they are life-threatening. After all, this is no longer the period when the White King reigns, and the insects no longer live in harmony. The maintenance bug has not experienced the gap of the changes in the world, so he does not have any emotions about it. He is just doing his own thing. In the past, his all was to repair street lights, street signs, road signs, or go to other maintenance bugs gatherings. Socialize, and then have a crush on a beautiful female. Now life is very different. The maintenance bug stopped on a platform. Not far from him, there were some wandering bodies. These were bugs that lost their minds. They were cruel, and cruelty was their only remaining instinct. The underground kingdom is well ventilated, and the cold and moisture-rich air current blows across the broken crossroad. Long grass is drilled everywhere in the cracks on the surface. It swings with the wind and makes a gentle friction sound. This is the deadly underground world. Many voices. Not long ago, the maintenance bug found a bug egg in such a thick, vigorous long grass. His worm instinct tells him clearly that this is a worm egg. He took the eggs back to his hut. That day was a turning point in his life. Obviously, there is only one more task, but there is a huge difference. The focus of life is largely shifted to caring for this worm egg. The maintenance bug leaped vertically, calmly stepped on the street lamp with its toes, and galloped all the way, jumping over the wandering body. He told Liu Zhengkong that there are many bone nails on the crossroad. This is a fact. After the kingdom's decline, countless warriors tried to explore this broken world. They were either greedy for property, or eager for the enjoyment of fighting, or tried to unlock the secrets of the decline of the Holy Nest. They came to the Holy Nest from all sides of the kingdom, or even more distant unknown places, but many fell to the first level, and they did not even get out of the crossroad. Some of them are huge, and the bone nails left behind are naturally huge. Some are very petite, and the bone nails left are also light and small, but this is not absolute. Some powerful fighters can wield huge bone nails with slender bodies. The offensive is overwhelming, and the defense does not leak. There was no delay in repairing the bugs. After picking up 3 bone nails, they hurried home. At the crossroads for so many years, the careful maintenance of the insects ensured that he survived with ease. He knew very well that the insects have their own wandering ranges. As long as they avoid the dangerous areas, he will be safe. The only thing that will appear everywhere, there is only one type of insect, and that is the soldier. Maintenance worm did not expect to encounter a soldier on the way home. He doesn't like soldiers very much, because they often have a rebellious character. Many times they will be bored brandishing bone nails, cutting off street lights and road signs, and increasing the workload of maintenance bugs. But this time the fighters are different. The maintenance bug hides in the dark, watching a strange bug wearing a cloak walking down the road. He is very different. He is small and wears a bone-white mask that makes people unable to see his true face. A huge helmet-like mask completely wrapped his head, revealing only 2 dark round holes, with 3 curved horns on the face, but asymmetrical. The 2 long ones are on the left and the short one is on the right. The leftmost corner is much longer than the right, like a diagonally flying bun. His steps are not hurried, he looks cute, and he has no deterrent. The maintenance bug was relieved, and when the unusual soldier passed by, he got out of the dark and continued on his way. He went away easily, never seeing that the soldier had already turned around. His hollow eyes looked at the dark place where the maintenance insects disappeared. The hollow knight had no extra curiosity. He turned around and continued on the road, no longer paying attention to the secret spy. He intends to go to the resting place. The repair bug came home and leaned the bone nails he brought against the wall. These 3 bone nails grew from small to large, and the small ones were less than half the size of the repair bugs. The larger ones were twice as long as the repair bugs. They were all slim and slender types. Not heavy. Liu Zhengkong jumped gently, got off the bed, and staggered to the maintenance bug. He stretched out the worm's limbs and gently stroked the bone nails, feeling every inch of its details. The maintenance bug began to chatter again. He mentioned the weird bug that he had just seen. Liu Zhenkong had listened indifferently, but now he also cheered up. Was wearing a mask, a cloak, and a bone spike on his back, and his eyes were dark and deep. These qualities made him think of the Hollow Knight for the first time. But it should not be the protagonist of the game. The protagonist's horns are symmetrical, this one should be a certain kind of protagonist. This is quite important information. Is it a broken container? Liu Zhenkong thought absent-mindedly. The containers followed the call and returned to the holy nest one after another. Eventually one would complete the mission and defeat the radiant light again. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Let the infected bugs return to their senses. Let the holy nest prosper again. As for the failure, it will naturally fall into the abyss. It's too early to think about this. Liu Zhenkong understands that he needs more work to survive. After all, he is a worm with ambition in the world, and what you need to travel the holy nest is strength. The energetic Liu Zhenkong resolutely ran to the bed and began to dream. The dreamland arena is on. Once the subconsciousness is born, it will maintain its existence, and the subconsciousness will still be divided again. The energy consumption of split consciousness will recover with rest, and the speed is not slow. On average, every sleep has the ability to split again, but Liu Zhenkong knows that there is an upper limit. Split consciousness consumes not only energy, but also memory and imagination. These are the keys to constructing independent personality consciousness. Based on Liu Zhenkong's experience, he feels that his number of split consciousness will not exceed 100. Is more than enough. In tonight's dream, the 6 subconsciousnesses are fighting, and the total consciousness is sitting on the high throne and observing the actions of several fighters. There are 3 types of fighters: sword and shield hand, dual-wielding swordsmen, épée, and swords have been replaced with bone nails, so they can be called shield nailers, double nail fighters, and giant nailers. Some violations, but Liu Zhenkong muttered several times, but unexpectedly. In the original work, the little knight only holds a nail in his hand and defeats the enemy by simple slashing. To achieve this, we need strict control of the fighting rhythm, flexible pace, and meticulous and error-free slashing, just like a sophisticated killing machines are average, which is why the little knight has repeatedly won. Liu Zhenkong practiced swordsmanship hard in his dream, and at the same time, he was preparing to wake up and start exercising. The warrior's journey has begun. Insects are very small, and their lives are short-lived. Liu Zhenkong, who sleeps after eating every day, and eats as soon as he wakes up, grows up quickly. Because of his lack of knowledge of entomology, and the fuzzy and artistic treatment of insect traits in the game, Liu Zhenkong did not know very well what his prototype of maintenance insect was, but as the genetic information deep in the gene was released little by little, he also understood that he would not pupate, but would only grow up normally, and the outer shell would grow to a certain size and become fixed and hardened. At that time, it was the innate body size threshold for the maintenance insect. Between sleeping and eating, Liu Zhenkong slowly learned the language of insects. As a very personalized language, Zhangjiu is not a real communication bridge, but just a set of words that belong to each insect species and each insect. The real message is pheromone, which is reflected by Zhangjiu. It is the race, character, and mood of the speaker. The voice of the maintenance bug who has been taking care of Liu Zhenkong is crisp, sweet, short, and powerful, reflecting its optimistic and kind character. Liu Zhenkong's voice is calm and gentle, but it's more concise than those giant bugs in the game. There is no procrastination, no ambiguous syllables, it sounds like a calm brother next door. The world of bugs is underground. Timing is a big problem. Liu Zhenkong also asked maintenance bugs about timing. As a result, there was no result. There is no time here. The subjective experience of time passing by different insects is very different, so there is no unified time standard. It is said that during the reign of the White King, in order to coordinate the work, they used ethnic characteristics to allocate specific tasks. Do flexible work if you are sensitive to time, and repetitive work if you are not sensitive. It is also a good solution. Liu Zhengkong now understands why he can't find a timing tool when he walks through the entire map in the game. After thoroughly learning the insect language, the maintenance insect suddenly became eager and began to urge Liu Zhengkong to learn the insect language. Insect characters are truly unified characters that can be used to record information. Wisdom insect species are all higher life in the game. Learning words is the first step in learning knowledge, and knowledge is the cornerstone of civilization and wisdom. It is said that for several generations of insects without learning knowledge, they will slowly degenerate into lower creatures. Maintenance Worm's own knowledge was taught by seniors, and now he wants to pass on all these treasures. Liu Zhengkang's sleep was forced to decrease. Fortunately, he learned quickly and made good progress. It is estimated that it will not take long to fully learn this foreign language. Maintenance Worm wrote his name to Liu Zhengkong, Naughty. This is the name given to him by his elders. Naughty prepared for a period of time, and took Liu Zhengkong to participate in the assembly of repairing insects. There will be respected elders who will name the younger generation of the ethnic group and guide the maintenance experience. Naughty hasn't attended the party for a while, and he is eager to find a beautiful maintenance bug girl, live with her, work together, help each other, and then contribute to the reproduction of the ethnic group. Naughty, who has a reserved and introverted personality, often immerses himself in his own world and often loses his mind. At this time, Liu Zhengkong will go back to bed silently and continue sleeping. Insects also have a growth cycle. By analogy, Naughty is already a young man, while Liu Zhengkong is still a child. It's normal for young people to have some growing troubles, especially for home worms like Naughty. Once they want to get into trouble, the whole worm is beautiful and bubbling, and from time to time it will suffer from gains and losses, and make a frightened posture. After several observations, Liu Zhengkong lost interest in the little troubles of young Cunity. The year-round battles in the Dreamland battlefield gradually paid off. The techniques of fighting are all summing up the battle, and extracting the methods that can effectively subdue the opponent while ensuring one's own safety can be called martial arts. This is Liu Zhengjiao's own opinion. His current understanding of swordsmanship and his shallow exploration of technology have not yet risen to the height of Tao. Liu Zhengkong is very pragmatic, honing his skills honestly. In different games, the enemy has a fixed amount of blood and requires repeated attacks to kill. The reality is that as long as you use the right skills, you can do a single kill. The fighters in the Dream Arena have no physical limitations, so they can launch an offensive tirelessly. In high-frequency battles, all of Liu Zhengkang's subconsciousness is used to fighting, turning the battle into instinct, and is not afraid of fighting, even full of desire. Now Liu Zhengkong has the courage of a warrior, he can call himself a swordsman, because he has the courage to face a powerful enemy and draw a sword. The first stage of training had results, and Liu Zhengkong began to practice deeper. The ground of the arena rises a column full of holes, like a forest, a large number of attacking are ejected from the holes. There are three kinds of attacking balls. One is a fast ordinary white sphere, which will be injured if hit. One is a slow orange bursting sphere, which will die if hit, and the other is a black slime sphere, which bursts and releases mucus, which affects actions. In such a harsh environment, the fighters not only have to attack each other, but also need to judge the attacking ball from all directions at any time, and decide whether to dodge, bounce off, or hold on. The second stage of training raised the difficulty to an unreasonable height from the beginning. A large number of fighters were killed by the attacking ball without even reacting, let alone fighting each other. There are only a few subconsciousnesses who are proficient in swordsmanship and can barely protect themselves. With total consciousness sitting on the high throne, calmly observing all the fighters, feeling their thoughts, Yu reading www.yukanshu.com feels their emotions, anger, worry, and fanaticism. The entire arena is immersed in the frenzy of battle. Only the winner can get away, and the loser will perish forever. Liu Zhenkong is awakened by Nadi and continues to learn insect characters. When he learned that he was hungry, he ate some reptile meat, took a break, and asked the door to check the road conditions under his jurisdiction. Nadi closed the door before leaving. Liu Zhenkong was repeatedly asked to stay well, not to disturb the things in the room, it is best to go to sleep. How can it not move? As soon as Nadi went out, Liu Zhenkong jumped off the bed and he began to look through Nadi's notes. Some maintenance knowledge is recorded in the notes. It is mentioned that the maintenance bug can secrete a solution that can soften the metal for welding. Liu Zhenkong does feel this way. There is a sac in the body that is developing, but it has not been completed yet and cannot secrete any solution. In addition to notes, Liu Zhenkong knew that Nadi had a private diary, which was originally placed on the table in an upright manner. Later, after Liu Zhenkong began to learn the worm writing, Nadi secretly collected the diary. Diary is said to be a diary, but in fact it should be an event. There is no date in it, only the text. Liu Zhenkong didn't bother to look at it. Nadi was a straight boy and couldn't hide his mind. If you want to know his happiness and distress, just look at his appearance. Before Nadi came back, Liu Zhenkong began to exercise. Is mainly to practice jumping and exercise the strength of the lower limbs. As for the swinging of bone nails, it is still not good. The smallest bone nails are too big for the current Liu Zhenkong. Repeatedly, jumping boringly. Liu Zhenkong understands that this is the first great step. It's just too boring. Time flies quickly. After Nadi taught Liu Zhenkong all the worms he knew, he said that he would take him to the worm repairing assembly after a while. Worm writing is a kind of mixed writing. There are phonetic parts and ideographic parts. The ideographic part is hieroglyphs, which is used to express natural things. The phonetic parts are used to express inner emotions, onomatopoeia, state of things, and some other abstract content. This leads to the complexity of the insect writing system. Nadi only learns the commonly used, and there are many uncommon, advanced writings that need to be taught by the elders. According to Nadi, Liu Zhenkong has learned more than enough, and there is really no need to learn more, because he also learned a lot of rare words, and later because he didn't use it for a long time, he completely forgot. Liu Zhenkong ignored Nadi's nonsense and continued to practice jumping. This room is not big. Taking Liu Zhenkong's current body length, it's about 10 of his diameter, minus the area occupied by the furniture, and the area that can be used for free movement is less than half. It is a roughly rectangular shape with length and width. They are almost 5 of his length. So Liu Zhenkong used all kinds of welt jumps, diagonal jumps, midline jumps, and he jumped while he was still thinking about geometric figures, imagining that he was the tip of a pen and painting wantonly in this small area. This kind of childlike Liu Zhenkong hasn't enjoyed it for a long time. Is not to say that there is no chance, after all, when he was still a human, it was very convenient to live alone in a low-rent housing and want to do something naive. Just became less sensitive to childish pleasures when I grew up, and I didn't have the endless energy that I had spent when I was young. Now in such a situation where there is no entertainment, and doing such boring exercises, if there is no enthusiasm in the heart and the courage to persist, it will definitely not last. Liu Zhenkong actually knows how to survive. He can choose to stay stuck until the protagonist solves the crisis, but at the same time he realizes that life is a path of progress without retreat. In fact, he can only move forward from the beginning. Once cringed, he would become timid and cowardly, succumbing to the pressure of the radiant light, turning into a zombie. It is undoubtedly correct to constantly comfort and encourage oneself in adversity. Sometimes being too smart is not as good as a tendon, at least not falling into the abyss of self-doubt. Nadi recovered, turned his head and looked at Liu Zhenkong, who was muttering to himself while jumping around in the room, and couldn't help scratching his head. This scene had a good sense of sight. Naughty had a strange feeling in his heart, but he couldn't describe it. No matter what, he was very happy to see that the worm he raised was so energetic. Waiting for Liu Zhenkong to be tired from jumping, ready to stop, drink some dew and eat some insect meat. At this moment, Naughty came over with a small bag on his back. "Ah, kid, do you want to go to the big rally? This rally is at the crossroads, very close. I'll take you there and let the elders help you." "A name? You have grown up, should you have a name? I think it's time. Do you need a break? Or start now?" Liu Zhenkong looked at the small bag that Naughty was carrying. At this time, a small bag made of soft leather, with fine scales on the surface, looked very durable. "Let's go. I'll be with you," Liu Zhenkong said concisely. Naughty yelled happily, and then handed Liu Zhenkong a glass of water. When he finished drinking, he took his hand and went out together. At this time, Liu Zhenkong left the hut for the first time. The outside world is huge. Insect's underground world is not cramped. It seems to be a kingdom built on the foundation of underground caves. Large tracts of hard rock are piled up into a smooth road. Surrounded by a hut, they can't be seen at a glance, and most of them are abandoned. Is a sparse stone cone, growing from the bottom of the upper platform. The underground world is layered, and here is almost the deepest layer of the crossroads. There are many signposts on the main road, which serve as a decoration. There will be a street lamp at a distance, glowing brightly, and tiny bugs flying around the light bulb. There are sparsely distributed grasses on the side of the road. These tough plants have pale branches and leaves, which seem to have adapted to the low-light underground environment. Liu Zhenkong noticed that the stones on the paved ground, and even the huge rock blocks around the underground caves, are carved into snail shell-like round stones, which seems to be the unique decoration style left by the insects who built the crossroads. The low-light underground environment does not bother the bugs, and the road can still be seen clearly. Naughty took Liu Zhenkong walking in this large round house complex. The holy nest's roads extend in all directions, and the roads that maintenance bugs will choose are even more secretive. Liu Zhenkong soon came to an area that was never involved in the game. Walked out of the huge roundhouse group, rested for a while, and continued on the road. Naughty took out a water bottle made of carapace from her bag to let Liu Zhenkong replenish water, and asked Liu Zhenkong whether he was tired every time he walked. It is true that Naughty takes care of Liu Zhenkong very much. This journey is longer than expected. Naughty took Liu Zhenkong around a long way, avoiding the territory of many bugs, and came to a very remote place. There are collapsing and fractured stone pillars everywhere. The ground is no longer piled with stones, but large slabs, and there are vaguely many carvings that have not been erased by the wind and sand. The maintenance bugs set up a small market here. Many temporary small sheds are concentrated in one place, so that a small number of ethnic groups present a lively scene. Everyone gathers to eat, drink, chat and chat. Maintenance bugs are not merchants or adventurers, so these small sheds that can be seen everywhere are not small shops, but more like small meeting rooms, which are used to exchange feelings. When Naughty brought Liu Zhenkong, it caused a small cheer. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Every maintenance bug showed love to Liu Zhenkong, which made Liu Zhenkong feel very comfortable and heartwarming. Soon, Liu Zhenkong met the seniors of the ethnic group. 3 elders came to this rally. They are really old. When Liu Zhenkong saw them, he even wondered whether they were fossils of insects, because they were motionless, and the carapace on their body was covered with thick sand, which had condensed into blocks and became another layer of carapace. The elders live in the most exquisite tents, but the tents don't feel like a place to live, but a museum. These 3 old worms are like the unearthed cultural relics that Liu Zhenkong once saw. They give people a sense of distance and cannot get close. Ah, the one in the middle made a long breath, looking very tired. Clan, there are more, 1 member, very good, Naughty. Naughty was very excited at this time, just like seeing a small fan of a star, but he was very restrained. The whole bug was like a tensioned spring. Liu Zhenkong suspected that in the next second, Naughty would be like a real spring. Jump around in the tent. Little guy, have you learned the words? Asked the old bug on the left, his voice very dull. I learned some common ones, but I want to know more. The old worm on the right is a female, but she is too old to see the kindness of the old woman. She had been in a daze just now, and suddenly recovered, and said to Liu Zhenkong in a complimentary tone, "Okay. Okay, it's good to learn more, and it's a pity that the teacher is no longer." With that, she fell into her own memories. The old bug in the middle said to Natty, "Naughty, you can go out, this kid, we have to ask." "Yes, of course." Naughty turned and left, walked to the door, and turned her head secretly, and said a few words of encouragement to Liu Zhenkong. "Child, have you thought about it, what do you want to do?" In such a narrow and claustrophobic environment, a silly old bug whispered rough words like gravel flowing over a reef. Liu Zhenkong was a little lost. Such a scene is like the roots of a decayed old tree transmitting rain for the fresh young leaves. "I thought about it. Be a soldier." Liu Zhenkong finally did not forget to answer. The old bugs on both sides have fallen asleep tiredly, the one in the middle is patiently communicating with Liu Zhenkong. "I see, your courage, being a soldier, is very good, the holy nest is weak, we repair the insects, and lack self-protection ability, it is good for a junior like you to make up your mind to go out and walk." There was a long silence after speaking. Liu Zhenkong waited honestly, but the time passed slowly, and the old bug still didn't speak. He suspected that the old bug was asleep, so he walked out of the tent lightly. Naughty stood at the door and asked him, "How about it? Did the elder agree to teach you knowledge?" Liu Zhenkong waved his hand, "They are asleep." Naughty suddenly fell into a state of panic and worry, and began to talk non-stop. Liu Zhenkong didn't pay attention to Naughty's nonsense, he curiously looked at his neighbors. The maintenance bugs were very relaxed at the party. Liu Zhenkong dragged Naughty to wander around. Many bugs greeted them. Liu Zhenkong responded one by one, behaving very politely, but also very distant. There was a worm talk behind it, "This little guy is so arrogant. It's different from when I was a kid, this is an unusual child." Naughty trembled suddenly. Liu Zhenkong thought he had some disease. As a result, he was excited and unable to hold on to himself. Liu Zhenkong followed Naughty's sight. There was a tall and strong female with a shiny and strong carapace. Communicating with her companions in a small shed, her body looked extraordinary and radiating attractiveness. "Do you like her?" Liu Zhenkong asked Natty. Natty was taken aback. He vetoed it quickly, and then reacted, "Little guy, what do you know about liking?" "No, I don't like it, I just feel it." Liu Zhenkong did not catch the stubble. At this time, several sturdy and capable adult male worms ran behind and stopped the two worms. Said the leader, "The elder said that the little guy is very good. If you want to be a soldier, you can go to the merchants living in the crossroads to buy some equipment. The race prepares 1,000 Joes as funds." It turned out that it was the old bug waking up, and seeing that Liu Zhenkong was not there, he hurriedly called the juniors who were waiting outside the tent to send messages to the two bugs. Naughty asked the head worm eagerly, "Did the elder name this little guy?" "No, the elders said that the name of the soldier should be named after the war. They said, let this child go through the battle, this is the growth process of the soldier." "That didn't say you want to impart knowledge." "I didn't say, but I suggest you don't make this request. The elders are too old to have the energy to teach." The worm handed Naughty a big bag, heavy, and then led the worms back to guard the old worm. The surrounding maintenance bugs come up. They all expressed their blessings to Liu Zhenkong, who was determined to become a warrior. Some older males would boast a few words about their heroic achievements in those years. They were nothing more than escape from the pursuit of a certain big insect. For mild insects like maintenance insects, escape is the only option for combat. Liu Zhenkong expressed his gratitude to these eager insects, and then took Na in advance to find the healthy and beautiful female. Nadi was taken to the small shed of her crush. When poor Nadi recovered, Liu Zhenkong had already communicated with the female, and the female decided to give Nadi a chance to pursue her. In the world of bugs, the status of females who have the right to reproduce is much higher than that of males. Liu Zhenkong used polite and funny words to make females treat the respectable and male who cultivated such smart bugs as Liu Zhenkong. The worm developed a good impression. Next, whether Nadi can get what he wants depends on his performance. Soon, it turns out that Nadi is really bad at words. Fortunately, Liu Zhenkong will help him out. Your name is Nadi? It's hard to raise children alone, right? The female said softly. I. Nadi was completely speechless. Liu Zhenkong replied for him, this lady, Nadi is an honest worm. He always spends time talking to do things, so he is speechless in front of your beauty. See you, Nadi, it has never been a taciturn worm, and it's purely nonsense to spend time talking to do things. Nadi's emotional intelligence at this time was very high, and he nodded vigorously to show that he agreed with Liu Zhenkong's words. In this way, Liu Zhenkong served as Nadi's emotional translator throughout the whole process. Yu reading www.yuuganchu.com explained all the good things for him. The female finally became really interested in Nadi. She told Chang that her name was Paya and asked about where Nadi lived, saying that she would definitely come back to see this if she had a chance. Plain and sincere, careful as a hare, essential, solid and courageous, dare to take responsibility. Liu Zhenkong laughed at his eloquence as the old Razode in the game, not drafting at all. Although this female is very smart, she has never come into contact with such a eloquent insect. After being boasted by Liu Zhenkong, the eyes of Nadi were tender and yearning. After the reluctant female worm said goodbye, Nadi asked Liu Zhenkong nervously, little guy, what should I do, if she comes to me, if you are not there, won't you just wear it out? He muttered to himself, then thought of a bad idea, and enthusiastically suggested to Liu Zhenkong, if you don't become a soldier, then you don't have to go out and travel. Really, stay here, honestly do a maintenance bug and do your best. Just divide it. Liu Zhenkong smiled and said, I don't leave right away. After you live together, she won't care if you are as good as I said. Hey? Why? Nadi humbly asked for advice, as if he was the bug, and Liu Zhenkong was the elder who imparted the experience of insect life. When the two insects get along for a long time, they will subconsciously ignore the other's strengths and become critical, but the relationship has been determined and will not be easily shaken. Nadi asked suspiciously, doesn't that mean that they will dislike each other? Yes, the emotional enthusiasm has subsided, and what remains is a long painful torture. As they communicated, they strode forward as they came and went. It's time to go back. Although I didn't get the result I wanted, the harvest is still rich. Nadi carried a heavy Joe on his back, and led Liu Zhenkong on the remote and dark path of the crossroad. They all kept silent. The journey is dangerous, and there is a crisis hidden in the darkness. Their two insects cannot be careless, otherwise their lives may be in danger. Walked back along the way he came, but Nadi found something was wrong. He put down the bag full of geo, let Liu Zhenkong stand in place, and walked carefully a few steps, squatting down and stroking an unnatural bulge on the ground. The gravel piled up into a small mound, which seemed to hide something. Nadi seemed to be taken aback, and hurriedly retreated to Liu Zhenkong lightly, with a certain distance from the mound, and then took a breath, pointed to the bulge and said to Liu Zhenkong, look, below here there is a gorm. Liu Zhenkong was unclear. So, when he saw it, Nadi explained a few words, it will come out of the ground and eat the insects on it in one bite. It has fangs and its whole body is long. It's terrible. Now Liu Zhengkong understands, it turned out to be a long bug that acts as an active trap in the game. This kind of bug is like a long strip of Chinese chess stacked on top of each other. It is iron grey, with mouth parts at both ends, covered with barb-like fangs, thick armor, is not afraid of chopping, and lacks mind. You don't need to care too much about this kind of bug in the game, because it appears as a tool, but in reality, this is a kind of cold and cunning predator who will not easily get out of the hiding hole, but once it strikes, it rarely misses. Seeing that Liu Zhengkong was prepared, Nadi nodded in satisfaction, led him around this GOM, and continued to set off. After, there was no accident, and he returned home without any setbacks. The days have returned to the original appearance. Liu Zhengkong insists on exercising every day, and Nadi also checks the road signs regularly, and catches a few small reptiles as food when he returns. The bag of joes was properly kept in a large box. These joes are of the most valuable kind, that is, the kind with the highest currency value, oval, flat, metal texture, horizontal stripes, very beautiful. This kind of geo is the most important source of metal. It is said that some kind of mineral-eating bugs accumulate metal elements in the shell to form a round spot-shaped metal block. Nadi has been waiting for the arrival of the beautiful female. For this reason, he will dress up his home in his free time. He will collect some small accessories on the road, such as some bracelets, such as some badges. There are also some ancient relics, such as the seal of the Holy Nest, such as some wanderers' diaries. Nadi mounted them on a flat and smooth stone slab and placed them on the left-hand side of the entrance of the house for visitors to watch. Liu Zhengkong is very curious to study these gadgets. Among them, the ancient relics particularly attracted his attention. These things can be exchanged for money in the game. Nadi successively collected 8 wandering diaries. These oval stones recorded the experience of the wanderers. Unfortunately, 7 of them were recorded in long-lost ancient dialects and could not be read. Only one was recent. It records a traveler's admiration for the lively scene of the Queen's Station. Countless insects are active here. There are so many kinds of insects that are rare in their lives. The running pace of the stagworms shakes this underground kingdom. A large number of materials and insects set off here and go deep into every part of the holy nest, just like the blood travels through the veins, full of life. This diary is the most recent one, but it is still describing a distant past, that lost history. Liu Zhengkong tweeted, expressing his yearning. The seals of the holy nest are all the same shape, but there are new and old, indicating different casting times. As Nadi continued to collect the rags and enter the house, the small round house soon became extremely cramped, and Liu Zhengkong had to go out to exercise, but Nadi asked Liu Zhengkong to stay honestly when he went out to work. In the room. So when Na raised the door, Liu Zhengkong would go to sleep, and when he came back to wake him up, he would start exercising. This huge group of round houses was once full of bugs, but shortly after the holy nest decayed, the place was no longer alive, and only maintenance bugs would come to live here. The real builders of these round houses may be some kind of snail, with the same style as the whole crossroad, with a shell-like appearance and simple and natural texture. Many dilapidated round houses exposed arched skeletons, looking like fossil remains of dead giant insects. Liu Zhengkong jumped around on these cupolas, with agile movements. Insects have a simple body and are well tolerated, so Liu Zhengkong can move for a long time without exhausting his energy. At a certain time, Liu Zhengkong jumped up high, raised his hand to touch the protruding spike on the platform above his head, grasped the spike tightly with 4 fingers, and hung himself in the air to exercise his arm strength. At this time, his gaze was staring into the darkness, and suddenly he saw a ray of light, turning out from a corner, illuminating a beautiful and robust figure. Liu Zhengkong jumped out of the round room, rushed into the room and told Nadi that he was coming to Paya, who was thinking about it. What? No, I mean, that's great. Naughty rubbed his hands excitedly. After a long time of fantasy, he was ready to have a passionate love in both physical and psychological aspects. Chong quickly cleaned up the slightly messy hut, trying to make the crowded decorations pile up a kind of full beauty. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Liu Zhenkong went out to greet him, and Natty kept preparing food. Paya came here alone. She was carrying a small light fly lantern. Liu Zhenkong was not surprised. Making light fly lanterns is an indispensable skill for many maintenance insects. Street lights are used in the game. Such a lantern would cost 1,018 Joes to buy from the shopkeeper's sleigh. Both parties were very satisfied with this gathering. Paja was very interested in the bits and pieces collected by Naughty. It turned out that she was also curious about the relics of the holy nest. Took Paya to watch this little house, which was really nothing to say, and Naughty invited Paya to dinner. During the meal, Naughty showed off the characteristics of talking on many occasions, and Liu Zhenkong quietly led the topic away, and then kicked the unsatisfied guy with Paya on his back, causing him to rein in his thinking frenzy. With the help of Liu Zhenkong, Naughty performed very well. At the same time, his sincere and passionate emotions also moved Paya, so the bold and independent Paya immediately decided to stay and spend his life with Naughty. Getting an accurate answer from the heartworm, Naughty was so happy that he was in a coma. In fact, he really fainted for a short time. Being overly excited caused the sac filled with corrosive solution in his body to be pressured and sprayed out. Like a fountain, the scene is spectacular, but the consequences are tragic. The floor of the house is corroded with potholes and spots. Liu Zhenkong took Paya out. "Madam, dear lady, please believe me, he just loves you too much, so he can't help it." "Really, that's good. I'm still worried that I will get along with an emotionally irritable bug." "Hee, how could it happen, how could it happen?" Paya's arrival brought many changes. First of all, the cabin was too crowded, so San Kong planned to excavate a basement to be used as a storage room and studio. The cabin was simply used as a bedroom. Naughty and Liu Zhenkong are in charge of this work. Paya plans to return to her home and bring her belongings. During the days when the female worms left, Natty was always excited. He found a trolley outside, which was left by the workers who built the crossroads. Natty repaired it to transport the excavated stones. Peace. The structural sketch of the basement was drawn by Paya and Naughty. They are very professional and the finished product should be very reliable. Liu Zhenkong took the initiative to undertake the work of excavating the stones. Naughty brought him a metal pickaxe. Liu Zhenkong carefully smashed the floor to expose the base. The surface was covered with volute-shaped pebbles. These things were easy to clean up. Naughty carried the dug-out pebbles and piled them up. It is reserved near the hut and will be used to decorate the walls of the basement later. Soon, Liu Zhenkong dug into a hard rock formation. The construction progress has slowed down abruptly, but Liu Zhenkong is tireless and can stand his mind and concentrate on digging. Dug down 2 of his own height, and then began to dig holes in the dug tunnel wall to use as a borrowing point for jumping. Naughty hung the basket down with a rope at the entrance of the cave. Liu Zhenkong filled the basket and pulled the rope. Naughty swayed and carried the stones up. The construction process is long and boring. Soon Paya returned with most of the belongings. She was involved in the transportation of gravel, which was more efficient. Liu Zhenkong felt the infinite potential of the insect body in the constant work, and felt that he was growing rapidly during the high-intensity work. 10 heights down, and then dug a horizontal passage to the side. The insect's instinct gives Liu Zhenkong an accurate grasp of the sense of direction and level. The dug passage is very standard. The passage was dug a certain distance, beyond the range of the roundhouse above. Liu Zhenkong began to expand, digging a large space. After a long time, the basement was finally dug, and the next step was the decoration time. Naughty put all his bits and pieces, including some gadgets brought by Paya, in a corner of the basement. The underground is more spacious than above. There are two entrances, one is inside the roundhouse and the other is behind the roundhouse. Open the copy and follow the ladder to get down. As for the vents, there are a total of 14 to ensure the fresh air in the basement. Paya and Nadi put their work in the basement to complete. At this time, Paya's extraordinary is revealed. She is very knowledgeable, likes to study, and has super Hansen skills. She knows more characters. In contrast, the conscientious Nadi is very unlearned. Realizing that her lover is not as good as she imagined, Paya was very depressed for a while. Fortunately, Nadi's delicate character suits her taste. Paya barely accepted this flash love. The original scope of Paya's work was in the City of Tears, where there are many resurrected sentinel remains. They stick to this once great city and will attack outsiders without hesitation, so Paya's job is very difficult, and I have to avoid these patrolling sentries carefully. Now, on the relatively peaceful crossroads, Paya is also liberated from work. She has enough time to develop her own gadgets. In her spare time, she also teaches Lu Zhenkang's infrequent characters. Paya persuaded Nadi to build a furnace near the roundhouse to smelt Jiu and make objects. Time passed quickly, and Lu Zhenkang's body was big enough. He began to wave the smallest handle of the 3 bone nails. Although it was still too big for his size, there was no way. The maintenance bug was born small. Fortunately, the center of gravity of this bone nail is stable when it swings. In the dream arena, the number of points of consciousness has reached 63. They are already elite fighters, able to guard against attacking the ball and fight each other fiercely. For Lu Zhenkang, the battle has gone deep into his bones like breathing. It is a pity that there is no opponent now, and he can only wave the bone nail into the air. He is practicing several commonly used sword moves, chopping and cutting, block, stab, and pace, with ever-changing effects, adapting to the ever-changing battle situation. Turning sword moves into instinct, letting the sword swing without thinking, this is a clever swordsman. Time passed slowly in the low whistling sound of the bone nails cutting the air again and again. At a certain time, Paya developed a set of claw hooks, which can be launched by a crossbow machine or equipped in the hands, which could not be better for climbing walls. Lu Zhenkang took the initiative to help her test the practicability of this equipment, and started wandering around with the claw hook. Now Nadi has relaxed his control a lot, allowing him to travel alone, but after each time he will be told to pay attention to safety and not to go to the insect-intensive areas easily. Nadi said that there is a mother of gruz nearby. It is very dangerous, please do not approach it. Gruz is a kind of fat bug that can fly, and the mother of gruz is fat like a ball, knocking to stun and even kill the prey. This thick-skinned bug is not easy to provoke. Lu Zhenkang is very contemptuous of this stupid, clumsy bug, but he still agrees to Nadi's request. He intends to find a merchant who lives in the crossroads. Although the reality and the game are very different, the game map is still very meaningful, and the talisman Saraba should be nearby. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Saying goodbye to the naughty 2 insects, Lu Zhenkang began his first trip alone. Walked out of the continuous round houses, and walked in the direction of moisture. There should be the blue lake, and the talisman merchant is near the blue lake. Tired of walking, I saw a few small reptiles on the road, including ordinary grey reptiles, and white tik-tik with strong grasping ability. Lu Zhenkang ran a few steps, nailed them to death with bone nails. It looks like a piece of grilled meat on a bone nail. After slaughtering these weak and pathetic scavengers on the spot, Lu Zhenkang had a full meal. Killing the insects did not bring him any hesitating mental activity, as if there was a kind of cruel blood flowing in the body. The weak eats the strong, the real only law in this world. Paya's claw hooks are very useful, allowing Lu Zhenkang's range of actions to be greatly expanded. He can jump on many high platforms and drill into many hidden places. It is conceivable to see, and it must be used to escape pursuit. After a hard journey, Lu Zhenkang finally heard a faint laughter. This simple and joyful laughter brought back long memories. Liu Zhenkang's spirit was lifted, and he was ahead of him compared to the talisman dealer. He walked a few steps quickly, bypassing a dilapidated ruin, and the distant platform shone with magnificent light. The platform is very high, and it is impossible to jump up. Liu Zhenkang shot the claw hook with the crossbow machine on his back and grabbed the rope to the platform. There is a large area of beautiful and exquisite houses. Many graceful and fat worms walked on the platform to welcome the visitor Liu Zhenkang. It turned out that they were a family of merchant insects. They once allowed the holy nest to prosper, but now they decline with the holy nest, a type of insects with a history. Listening to the eager greetings of the merchants, Liu Zhenkang began to worry that he could keep a few of the 300 geo he brought. These merchants actually don't have any very valuable commodities on hand. Due to the paralysis of the transportation system, the circulation of materials has become difficult, and the merchants are in an unprecedented dilemma. Some of them have embarked on the road of travelers and began to collect goods on foot, some chose to make some worthless gadgets by themselves, and some merchants had precious handheld treasures on hand, and they depended on these good things to support the scene. After visiting this merchant village, Liu Zhenkang couldn't help but sigh. It was really depressed. A huge village, hundreds of thousands of houses, now there are only a few dozen lights on, and only 6 of them insist on doing business. Liu Zhenkang found the talisman merchant Salyuba in the game, a fat beetle with a richly dressed dress and unusually plump lips. Sure enough, she sells amulets here. This kind of emblem with magical power can give the wearer a great help. Amulet is said to be formed by the most sincere thoughts placed on things. It is not a tool that can be mass-produced and is extremely cherished. Is of course very expensive. Using amulets requires amulet slots, and amulets with different effects require different numbers of amulet slots. Liu Zhenkang calculated that if he wanted to use a powerful amulet, the money was not enough, and he had to give up in desperation. There are several other businessmen, including a weapon seller. Liu Zhenkang went and took a look. There were many brand new bone nails in it, which were much sharper than the one he picked from the ground, so he spent 150 and 50 to buy one. A well-fitting, small bone nail, with a more stable center of gravity when swung, it is very handy. I didn't keep the 105 jewels left. I went to another armor shop and bargained for a small metal buckler. It was durable and very cost-effective. While chatting with the merchants, one of them suddenly made a request to Liu Zhenkang. It turned out that he noticed that the nearby Gruzes were extremely active. He hoped that the brave soldier Liu Zhenkang could find out some situations and what caused it. Gruz's restlessness, if correct and reasonable news can be sent back, the businessman is willing to pay Liu Zhenkang 100 zhous as a reward. After listening to Shang Chong's entrustment, Liu Zhenkang agreed without much thought. Due to his promise to Natty, he plans to go back to convince Natty not to worry about himself, and then explore what happened. It took some time to come and go. Liu Zhenkang had a task on his body, and his mind of continuing to talk couldn't help but fade away, and stood up to say goodbye to the merchants. The merchants kept on, but Liu Zhenkang decided to leave immediately. The arrival of Liu Zhenkang was a rare event for the deserted merchant village. Before they left, they reluctantly said goodbye to him, wishing him a safe journey, and wishing him to come often. Looking at these enthusiastic insects and the declining village behind them, Liu Zhenkang suddenly felt a deep sadness. These bugs are singing lament for the old world intentionally or unintentionally. They seem to be incompatible with the present and are being swallowed up by time and reality. Such things happened everywhere in this declining kingdom. Liu Zhenkang felt a historical inertia that could not be violated, but he was still very uncomfortable. He hoped that he could do something for this gradual deterioration of the world. With heavy thoughts, Liu Zhenkang sorted out his equipment: 2 bone spikes, a crossbow machine, a claw hook, a round shield, an empty cloth bag, a small water bottle, and a light fly lantern. That's all. He carefully tied these items to himself, with the bone nails and claws on his waist, and he could get them by raising his hand. Such small details are full of every part of life. Liu Zhenkong dare not relax and try to do his best. On the return journey, he ran all the way fast, but almost an accident happened. A gorm suddenly protruded from the ground, and his huge ferocious mouth parts attacked Liu Zhenkong, who was jumping in the air. At the moment, Liu Zhenkong pulled out the bone nails, made a light cut, slashed on the dense fangs near Gorm's mouth parts, and bounced himself off by relay, then left without looking back, leaving the hunting failed. Gorm unwillingly retracted into the ground, using his flexible long tongue to gather the gravel near the cave into a small mound. This accident was not a challenge for Liu Zhenkong at all. The bug's body brought him agile action, skilled swordsmanship allowed him to escape from the dead, and his bold and cautious character ensured that he was safe from hacking. Get up, making Gorm's tried and tested attack as pale and crude as a clumsy black and white movie. After returning home, Liu Zhenkong reported to Paya the experience of using the claw hook, put forward suggestions for improvement, and greatly appreciated the weapon. Nadi curiously asked him what he saw when he went out this time. Liu Zhenkong didn't talk about his preference for seeing and hearing, so he said dryly that he saw a merchant. Nadi's talk came up all of a sudden. Before he started talking, Liu Zhenkong told him that he was going to explore the scope of Gruz's activities. Yu reading www.uucananshu.com. Nadi was of course very opposed, but Paya expressed support. The elders said that we must respect every warrior's every thought, they are the truly pioneering bugs. Little guy, go if you want, and I will convince Nadi. Liu Zhenkong returned home without rest, hurriedly filled the kettle, and set off immediately. Nadi's mood was restless, a strong feeling filled his heart. He wanted to say but couldn't say anything. He only felt a fire burning in his chest, and Paya's gentle eyes could be seen. The fire went out suddenly. Nadi looked at Liu Zhenkong's distant figure, and a thick layer of dust was covered in a damp, fold corner of his heart, leaving only heaviness and depression. What's the matter with you? Paya asked with concern. I don't know, I'm just sad, the little guy has grown up. Liu Zhenkong ran all the way to the direction of Shangchong village, until the overhead platform ended, turned around, jumped all the way up from the suspended steps on the cave wall, and came to the upper platform. Traveling some distance here, I saw a few gruzes wandering near the street lamp. These little ball-like bugs with elephant trunks are actually quite cute and not aggressive. Liu Zhenkong tried to hunt one, jumped up and chopped. Sharp bone nails hit the thick skin of gruz, cut long holes, light blue blood seeping out. This injured gruz hurriedly wanted to escape, but the flight speed was too slow, and Liu Zhenkong was nailed to the head, turned over and fell to the ground like a leaky ball. Liu Zhenkong dissected the gruz and found that there was a cavity inside. Perhaps this was the reason why gruz could fly without wings. It's useless to think about this, Liu Zhenkong laughed at himself, shook his head, and headed towards the center of the platform.